As fans and lovers of Tower of God, we can all agree collectively on one thing. We all hate Rachel. And I know there's that one person watching this who's like, well, I actually don't think Rachel did anything wrong. You're not welcome here. So even I have to admit that despite my hatred towards Rachel, that's also why I really enjoy her as a character. She's made to be hateable. SIU draws her and writes her in such a way that her actions and her words and her appearances even make her just the worst character ever. It's so that even though she's only technically done a few bad things, she's way more hateable than someone like White, who slaughtered 1 billion people, and yet we all love White. Like, SIU did that perfectly. But Rachel is also a very mysterious person, and there's a lot of theories floating around about her, her 3 wishes and everything, but a very interesting one, and one that I wanted to dive into today and see if it has any validity, is whether Rachel is a daughter of Jahad. Now, this is a fairly popular theory, you've probably heard it before, so I've collected some evidence and I'm going to present the case to you guys, and then we're going to decide, do we really think that Rachel could potentially be Jahad's daughter or in some way related to Jahad? If you like the content here on the channel, be sure to subscribe because we do a lot of Tower of God stuff here on the channel. We're also starting to branch off into other anime. I'm gonna make an Attack on Titan video here soon. So subscribe if you want to see more of that stuff. This is the year of the Bonehead. We're gonna hit 100K by the end of the year and it's gonna be super fun along the way. That didn't make any sense. So the first piece of evidence that Rachel could potentially be a daughter of Jahad is she has blonde hair and blonde eyes. Okay, so this isn't a very strong argument, but it's worth pointing out that Rachel does have blonde hair and blonde eyes, just like Jahad and Wong Non and presumably Karaka. Now, this alone doesn't prove anything, and in fact, there is a flaw to this that I realized on my own. She does have the blonde hair and the blonde eyes. It's not quite as blonde as the Jahad family. It's a little bit dirty blonde, right? But she doesn't have a key feature of the Jahad family when it comes to pure appearance, and that is the horns. Both Jahad and Wong Non have these red horns sticking off of the back of their head, and Rachel doesn't have that. Now, maybe not everybody in the family gets those horns, but I feel like it would be something that the family members share, so it doesn't necessarily disprove it, but it's worth pointing out. And before one of you says that only males can get horns, I'm not sure that's really the case either, because even though Endorsi is a different species, presumably she's some kind of human, right? She has a horn, so it's not like only males can get horns, so I don't know, it's interesting to point out. I'm not sure if it disproves it or proves it. Appearance-wise, maybe. Now, obviously the biggest piece of evidence is the fact that she personally knows Arlen. Personally, right? Like, the way she talks about Arlen makes it sound like she actually knew her and didn't just find her pocket and find out this information. She says, Arlen, I'm the one in the prophecy and whatever. Like, the way she talks really makes it sound like she knew Arlen, which is weird, right? Like, why would Rachel, of all people, know Bomb's mother, who was obviously deeply connected to Jahad? It doesn't necessarily mean that Arlen is like her mother or anything. That wouldn't really make sense either, but there's definitely something going on there, and the fact that she knows Arlen at least means that Rachel is caught up in the whole Jahad-Arlen V incident in general. Or at least in some way. Now, this is probably the biggest piece of evidence in my opinion, and that is her connection to Wong Non. Now, you might not realize what I'm talking about here, but once Wong Non was sort of forced into Rachel's team and she took his ring and everything, SIU stated in his blog post that her meeting Wong Non joining and teaming up with Rachel, was a big, significant moment for Tower of God and for the two of them. He talked about how, I'm paraphrasing here, but he talked about how these two characters, like, their relationship is important to the story, and like that moment was integral, which is like, why? You know, why is it integral? They're just teaming up. Unless there's something going on under the scenes, behind the scenes. Is Wong Non her sister? Is Wong Non, wait, that was the right sentence. I'm going crazy. Are the two of them related? You know, what's going on there? Is something up that we don't know about? What's SIU hiding? And there's also more similarities to Wong Non, because not only is there a connection between the two of them, but both of them are very weak characters that could potentially be hiding something. Wong Non doesn't seem to have any particular powers. He uses Shinsu bombs to fight because he doesn't really have any innate skills. However, we know that he is some brand of immortal. right? He was stabbed through the heart by Beta and didn't die. You know, and then he also, there's a bunch of other things that have happened to Wong Non, and he's been okay in the end. It's heavily implied that he has some kind of immortality. And although we haven't seen too much from Rachel's side of things, we have heard some characters talk about this presence with Rachel. When we first meet Endorsi in Season 1 during Chapter 14, when they're teaming up, it's Ghost and Endorsi and Rachel. Endorsi says at some point that she notices this strange aura about Rachel, this mysterious presence. Maybe not necessarily strength, but something about Rachel. Now that could just be because she's from outside the tower, but it's worth pointing out that Rachel, there could be something to her in regards to power, but then again, that kind of disregards her whole character, so I don't know, it's worth pointing out. What's also super interesting is Rachel has openly admitted that she's very jealous of Endorsi. This doesn't necessarily prove anything, but Endorsi's beautiful, she's strong, she's a princess, like, it's everything that Rachel has ever wanted. But what if she's also jealous of Endorsi because Endorsi is treated as Jahad's daughter when Rachel isn't? That's kind of a weak one, but I thought I'd mention it nonetheless. Again, there is that similarity to Wong Non where both of them, they're aiming for greater heights than what they think they are, right? Like Wong Non wants to be king of the tower, but he doesn't know that he actually, most likely, is a son of Jahad and he's a prince of the Red Light District. And in the same way, perhaps Rachel does, she wants to aim higher, but also doesn't realize who she really is, or maybe she does realize it. I don't know. I'm just talking here. And then there's the whole thing about Rachel seeing the stars. It's been her whole goal. Again, this is similar to Wong Non, where he wants to climb the tower. He wants to be the king of the tower, rule the tower. What if that's, in Rachel's own way, her way of saying seeing the stars is code for her meeting Jahad or becoming the queen of the tower, or at least seeing the stars means something else, which we know it has to, right? Like, what does that mean? Does she really just want to see stars, or is there a hidden meaning there? In my opinion, seeing the stars or wanting to reach the top of the tower, that's where Jahad is. Maybe Rachel, maybe there's something going on there. And the last piece of evidence that I have, this is a very interesting one, is in Bomb's cave, there is a symbol of Jahad, but it's slightly different. There's also a cross there. What the heck is that all about? Like, who put that there? Bomb didn't draw that symbol, right? Did Rachel draw that symbol? And if so, how does she know about that symbol unless she knew Arlen and Arlen maybe drew it, or she told Rachel about it and Rachel drew it, or Rachel used to be in Jahad's castle or whatever, and then she remembered the symbol and drew it but added her own little thing. Like, that's just weird. That symbol has always thrown me off, and there's something going on there, something very strange. And we know that Rachel has some kind of connection to potentially being a maid because she's like weirdly good at cleaning. Like, there's that scene with Wong Non where he points out, like, you're kind of good at cleaning. Like, that's weird. And she's like, yeah. So maybe like Wong Non, they were both kind of like cast out. So maybe Rachel worked as a maid in Jahad's castle or something, and just, Wong Non was kind of cast out, but they both have that hidden history. It's possible, but so after presenting all the evidence, my final verdict on this, and by the way, there's probably more evidence, my final verdict is probably not. Like, everything I've said, there's some interesting things, like her connection to Wong Non and the symbol and, like, what that all could mean. But overall, like, we have a character, Ho. Ho was a character with blonde eyes, blonde hair, he even had red horns. And, like, he obviously wasn't a son of Jahad, although there's been some theories. Han Sung has blonde eyes and blonde hair. There's been some theories that he's a princess. It's like, there's a lot of blonde characters, and evidence like that is a little weak. It's worth considering, right? I'd give it like I'd add 1% to the credibility of this theory because of it, but overall, the evidence points to Rachel being a mysterious character, but we don't know why, where that's ultimately gonna end up and what's going on there. We just know she's mysterious. So ultimately, it's hard to say, but if I had to, like, put money on it or predict, my guess is gonna be no. Maybe I would say there's like a 5% chance that she actually is related to Jahad. That's still 5% though. There's some interesting credibility here. And like I said, I'm sure you guys have some evidence, but there also is some more counter evidence, like why would she be working with Fug? Maybe she doesn't know about her history or her backstory. There's a lot going on here. for and against this theory, but I really like discussing it anyway because I think it's a lot of fun. Imagine if this whole time Rachel was a princess. I don't know, I think I'd be kind of sick. That was the most fake cough I've ever done. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Really hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this theory. What kind of evidence you have to provide, or counter evidence, or what your thoughts are on Rachel's character in general. Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you in my next Tower of God theory video. Take care.